Good evening, everyone, and welcome live on this Monday night to Homestead Miami Speedway for tonight's running of the TNR Grand National Series, sponsored by Schue Lawn Service. It is the C2 Graphics 150 here at Homestead. This is a great track. It's going to be very racy, and tonight should be a fantastic race. I am Mitchell Adams, joined in the booth by Garrett Gleason. And Garrett, just before we went live here, you and I were kind of talking about the tricky track conditions here tonight. Homestead, one of those tracks you never really know what you're going to get in terms of handling from these race cars. You said it's kind of a driver's racetrack out there tonight.
It's a driver's racetrack, and I was talking to Jamar Dumas before the race. Jamar asked why we're having a tropical storm warning. He said it is that windy and crazy out on the racetrack. These guys are getting tight off of turn 2. They are loose in turn 4. And like you told me before the race, if we could get about a 10-lap run under our belt, I think these guys are going to put on a tremendous show. It's just those first 10 laps, Mitchell. They're going to be like walking on eggshells out there.
This is one of those tracks. I put it in a list with Auto Club Speedway is another great example of this too. Going into that first turn on a restart, it just feels like the rear end wants to spin around, more so than at every other track on cold tires. For some reason, I don't know if it's the banking of this track or the surface, the car just really wants to spin around for the first 2 or 3 laps, but especially through that first turn. It gets very sketchy out there sometimes, and that, like you talked about, if you can get some laps to warm up those tires, you'll be okay. But for a couple laps here, these guys just going to be hanging on to it. This is a new look for J.D. Laird in the JDR graphics number 46. It's a nice new look, very fancy, painted by none other than JDR graphics.
Yeah, Mitchell, that's a good-looking hot rod JD showed up to this Homestead race with. And speaking of good-looking hot rods, Cam Caldwell, C2 Graphics, sponsoring tonight's race. Got to give another shout-out and say what great work Cam's done. Cam hasn't been racing with us much, but he showed me even a couple things as far as spec map goes a couple seasons ago, and there's so much knowledge and so much talent between him, JD, guys like Mike, Bill Edwards that could design cars. We have so much talent off the racetrack in TNR, but it's about the talent on the racetrack tonight. And this is a driver's racetrack, and these guys are going to figure this place out. Multi-groove, and I can't wait till the show to start, buddy.
Yeah, thank you for bringing up C2 Graphics. A big thank you to them for sponsoring tonight's race here at Homestead Miami Speedway. We've got a lot of really good graphics companies that have come on board this season. And like you said, fantastic work. A lot of good cars here in TNR. This is James Lorello, second place on the speed chart, just a little bit behind J.D. Laird up at the top of the charts. When we first went on the air, we were watching the 47 of Mike Floppy Tellier. He is third on the speed charts. Also, Jason Gracias back tonight, Garrett. He is 4th, and Jake Bustos 5th in speed charts. But that number 1 last season here at Homestead, he came home with the race win. Of course, that was the next-gen car. Slightly different, but Jason Gracias has to be a driver to eye. We haven't seen a whole lot of him this season, but he's going to be hungry for that win here tonight.
Jason Gracias, multiple-time TNR champion, one of the best drivers I've ever been on the track with. And he is a guy that looks forward to races like Homestead, and he will take care of his tires, take care of his stuff. And Jason Gracias is never an underdog in any race that he shows up to, but the lack of track time this season has to be hurting him just a little bit. If he is able to dust those cobwebs off tonight, Jason Gracias is going to be a contender for this win. And I don't care if he starts 20th and runs 20th for the first half of the race. He's saving something, and he's going to be up there when it matters, Mitchell. I guarantee it.
Definitely one of the favorites probably coming into tonight's race. Looking out in the chat, the Windsors saying good luck to Bill Edwards, who is out on track. As always in that S2R, the Fatal Concepts machine. He's 6th on the speed chart, just missed out on that top 5. Also, Johnny Williams saying 30-mile-an-hour headwinds down the back straightaway, and good luck all, and hello to the booth. Hello, Johnny. Tell you what, where I am, and I know a lot of areas too, we had some big storms, big winds. Just hoping everybody is safe too that dealt with those storms over the weekend. And tonight, Garrett, also a very big field here Not too much bigger than we're used to in the TNR. We've had great car counts every single week, but 22 cars here headed into qualifying. That's quite a bit of cars, and at a track like Homestead, where the tires can fall off so quickly and it becomes very difficult on a long run to make passes, you have to think we're going to see quite a few cars out for qualifying tonight to want that track position early in the race.
Yeah, Mitchell, I think you want to take that chance and get out there and run your qualifying lap and try to start up front. There's also that risk of somebody just getting so ever tight off of turn 2 and coming up into and ruining your race early on that I wouldn't be surprised if guys that now I'm gonna talk about Steven Doziak, right? Doz and I talked during the day today, and he was saying, Garrett, for the first time in my career, I'm out there points racing. I'm trying to make this chase. Well, somebody like Doz, he might not want to start up front tonight, Mitchell. He might want to start at the back and just let attrition take its course for the beginning of the race and then get there. Somebody like Bob Giaquinto right now we're looking at. It might not be worth it, but he's out there and we'll see what type of lap he puts down that number 23 tabletop trio machine.
Yes, we are about midway through the regular season, so it is that time where the points are going to start to be more prominent, more of a factor in these drivers' minds, and we're going to see guys put a lot more emphasis on that during their race. Qualifying time starting to trickle in right now. The fastest driver is Tristan Thuggy Maher in the Radius Racing 17 car over Joey Chapman and Philip Scott. Driver fastest in practice, JD Laird, not yet out for qualifying. James Lorello, second fastest in practice, currently 4th in qualifying. Paul Bilson in the 00 rounds out the top 5. New fast time is Bill Edwards. Well, he had it for just a second, then it was Jason Gracias, and then it was James Lorello in the number 13. A lot of movement here in these first couple laps of qualifying, and that's what we normally expect, Garrett, with the lap times always being as close as they are in the Total Nonstop Racing League. There's a handful, more than a handful of guys that could go out here and sit pole. It's just about who can string together those 2 good laps.
Yeah, consistency is key. Just hitting your marks and not making that mistake is going to be the difference from starting on the pole and maybe starting in 10th tonight, Mitchell. And practice was no different. These guys were tight time-wise. I was watching some guys run laps, and they were just on a razor's edge as far as having the lap and not having the lap out there. As we watch Johnny Eckert in the number 90 Outlaw Motorsports Chevrolet here put down his lap, always someone that is in contention, and we'll see if he's going to start up towards the front.
We've talked a lot about him over the last couple of weeks. His 6th race of the season came in a little late, but ever since then, he's only had 2 finishes where he was not inside the top 5. Or excuse me, only 1 finish not inside the top 5, and only 2 finishes where he was not 1st or 2nd place. So that 90, again, has to be one of the big names you're looking at as a threat here tonight. Currently 2nd place on the speed charts to James Lorello, his teammate Jake Bustos. We missed Jake last week. Glad he's back and able to race with us this week. He goes 4th on the speed chart. This is JD Laird going out for his qualifying lap now. It's just the 46 of Laird on track as far as iRacing is telling us. Stay Tuned Sports in the chat says Boo Garrett in the booth. Garrett, I love having you in the booth. Someone to keep me company every week. So ignore Stay Tuned Sports and Jimbo out there in the chat.
Yeah, Jimbo, nice seeing you in the chat. Be even nicer seeing you on the racetrack. Maybe you could get your man parts out of your wife's purse and get out there next week.
This is the 34 of Robert Kenny as well out on the racetrack. Kenny picked up a win in the Daytona doubleheader a couple weeks back. That gave him a good run last week as well too, carried that momentum. He goes to 7th on the speed charts. DJ Weeks in the 97 currently sits in the 14th position. Fast time goes to JD Laird on his 2nd lap. A 33.502. That's about a 1/10 of a second off the fastest lap we saw in practice. That not necessarily out of the ordinary, Garrett. Typically in practice, you have a whole hour to lay down a lap. It's very rare to see the qualifying times quite as good as in practice, especially at Homestead. This is a track I've always felt like really consistency. Sometimes it's difficult to find, and that's what we're going to be looking for here in these opening laps as qualifying gets wrapped up. Going to transition over to the race. The driver's going to get gridded up, and I will take you through your starting lineup here for the C2 Graphics 150 at Homestead Miami Speedway. JD Laird, the pole sitter in the new look for that number 46. He will have James Lorello to his outside starting in second. In third is Johnny Eckert in the number 90. Fourth is Jason Grassi as fifth place, Jake Bustos. Then in sixth, it's DJ Weeks. Seventh, Mike Floppy Tellier. Eighth is Paul Bilson in the number 5. Ninth place is Robert Kinney. And rounding out your top 10, that is Joey Chapman in the number 60. Then outside the top 10, it's going to be Tristan Thuggy Maher in 11th. Jamar Dumas in 12th. Paul Bilson in the 00 rolls off 13th. Philip Scott in 14th. Johnny Williams, the last car to take time in qualifying, rolls off in 15th. I think I said a number twice, possibly. In 16th, it's Steven Doziak. In 17th is Bob Giaquinto. Quinto, excuse me. I went back to the Peter pronunciation all of a sudden there. In 18th, Jason Schue. 19th, Vincent Valvano. 20th, Robert Tripp in the 35. And then rounding out your field here tonight is the 69 of Stephen Morgan. I believe a new name here in tonight's field, Garrett.
Yeah, a friend of Steven Doziak, so do not hold that against Stephen Morgan. It's nice to have any new faces here in the Total Nonstop Racing League. And Doz said don't expect that number 69 to be running up towards the front tonight. Sort of someone that's going to be back there where I normally am. So maybe just take up my place and be in the first car getting left. So we'll see, Mitchell. But thanks for being here, Steven. And we look forward to having you as part of the Total Nonstop Racing family for weeks to come.
Yeah, always love seeing new faces in the league. That's a nice camera we've got here going off of pit road. And it's a nice looking paint scheme on that 69. Love the patriotic looks always. Barstool Sports on the back. Another talking point we've had pretty much every week, Garrett, is how JD Laird, he's just been the class of the field in a lot of the races he's started, coming off a dominant win last week at Rockingham. And if you're these guys here, you know, Homestead is a little bit more options than at Rockingham. That's still a multi-groove racetrack to an extent, but you can't really do as much as you can here at Homestead, running all the way up on the wall, running on the white line. It's going to put on quite a show for us here tonight as the iRacing pace car makes its way down pit road. JD Laird leads them into the iRacing restart zone. Green flag is in the air. A fantastic start for both drivers up front. Lorello seemed to get off the line better, and he spins through turns 1 and 2. Those cold tires we were talking about, Garrett. Lucky not to collect any other cars in that accident, but James Lorello from second all the way down to the back of the field in just one corner.
Wow, Mitchell, 13, James Lorello had a tremendous start. I'm watching him thinking he's going to be able to take the lead there going into turn 1, and with the blink of an eye, he's all the way towards the back of the pack and slapping his car off the wall. That is just the tough conditions here at Homestead. Going back towards the front, seems like JD Laird is under pressure from a familiar foe in the number 90 of Johnny Eckert.
That's so easy to do through that first turn. Just what I talked about. I've done it myself many times. I know how easy that is to do. Into 3 and 4, Johnny Eckert looking up the inside of JD Laird. There's really, at Homestead, there's not one groove I feel like usually has the advantage in passing. Typically at tracks, there's either the high line or the low line. You would usually rather be in to pass someone, but here at Homestead, I never really felt like that was the case. You could be fast just about anywhere you run on this racetrack. iRacing's really done a great job doing work on this place over the years, worked on the progressive banking, and really made it more of a multi-groove racetrack more close to what we see in real life. And you see that there, JD Laird kind of ran up from that bottom line a little bit, whereas Eckert goes down all the way to that white line, trying to get clean air on his nose. But right now, a 3-car breakaway, JD Laird, Johnny Eckert, and Jason Gracias in the one. Talked about keeping an eye on him in the opening laps. He is already up at the front of the pack, right where he started.
That is bad news for everyone, Mitchell, to see that number 1 Max Graphics Toyota of Jason Gracias up in the top 3 already, just on the hunt, waiting for these guys to make the slightest of mistakes, and Jason Gracias will capitalize. And you talked about him being one of the favorites coming here. 1 races here. I said he was a multiple-time champion, and he's showing that right now. He's dusted that rust off, and he might even be doing this with a drink in his hand. Not that we encourage drinking and driving here on the World Racing Network, Mitchell.
No, I don't think for legal reasons we can encourage that. I think Eckert again up front thought about making a move on JD Laird, didn't quite have enough momentum, but he's doing right what he wants to be doing, which is sitting behind him and waiting for Laird to slip up. The issue is that JD Laird, not a driver who frequently makes mistakes, that's going to open the window for you to make the pass. So you don't want to sit right in his tire tracks too long, because you're going to have to work that wheel harder, burn the tires off faster. You could almost, Garrett, do you think there's a potential for that 90 and 1 to work together and Jason Gracias maybe try and push Johnny Eckert out to the lead?
I don't think that's the worst idea, Mitchell. It's still early enough in this run where I think guys are trying to make sure their cars are underneath them. So, like you said, about 10 laps, you'd be confident in. These guys here working lap 7. I think they're getting to that point where they're going to try to work together to pass the 46. So you're actually calling that, I think, before it's going to happen. But that is what I expect to happen, Mitchell. So we'll see if you're right.
That's a move that really depends on the drivers. And there's not a ton of tracks that can be executed super well. But this is one of those tracks. I've always felt like the draft more important. I don't know why. It just always felt very significant here at Homestead. The battle for second place heating up now. Jason Gracias to the inside of Johnny Eckert. Thought those two were going to make contact into turn number 1. Eckert stayed high enough that Gracias didn't make contact, but that kind of shows you too, Garrett. Jason Gracias is thinking about making that move to the inside.
That was crazy. It looked like the number 1 of Jason Gracias was going to overtake the 90, and then within a second, the 90 looked like it was going to pass JD out there. Mitchell, that was just crazy how those runs happened there pretty much live here as we had the camera on them. And now Gracias has backed off a little bit, maybe going to leave that 90 to work over JD and see if he could capitalize once the 90 makes the move.
Yeah, I feel like Jason Gracias, for the most part, has been biding his time in third place, just waiting for that move to come to him. Saw him maybe try and push the issue a little bit there, and it wasn't going to work out. And kind of settling back in line a little bit. Good battles going on through the field as well. This is Robert Kinney and Bill Edwards side by side for the 9th place position. Edwards just barely gets up in front of Kinney. That's Joey Chapman in the number 60 right in front of them. Also a little bit further back in the field, the battle for the 14th position between James Lorello, Steven Noziak. These two have been close for quite a few laps here. Again, Lorello started up in second, got loose in turn number 1 and trying to fight his way up through the field, currently running in the 14th position. Also, Vinny Valvano and our own Bob Giaquinto from Tabletop Trio running pretty close together here. Bob fell back just a little bit, but you see Vinny up in front of him. That's another new paint scheme this week for Vinny Valvano. Got a TNR look going. That's a nice looking race car. And of course, Garrett, especially as the league administrator, you gotta love TNR on the side of that race car.
And what a tremendous ambassador for the league in Vincent Valvano to be repping the TNR colors. I could not be more proud of Vinny as a person, as a driver. I say this every week with him out there. I'd like to see him running up towards that top 5, which I know he's capable of. Hopefully we see that number 64 TNR Ford. I'm not a Ford guy, Mitchell, but I can't help but root for Vinny out there. Hope to see him up near that top 5 towards the end of the race. But Stage breaks at lap 20, Mitchell. Just want to let our fans know here on YouTube that we're closing on our first stage break. So if your driver's not doing so well, they're going to get that caution, come in, get some tires, and get right back at it. Somebody like James Lorello get that damage fixed.
Yeah, I don't know how much Lorello got up into the wall either. I think there's a little bit of damage on that right front. You see it scraped up a little bit. I don't know how much that's hurting that 13, but at tracks like this, you have to assume that the damage is hurting the car more than it looks like. Usually that's how iRacing tends to work. Up front, JD Laird, not much has changed, stretched the gap oh so slightly over Johnny Eckert, who currently runs in second, and Jason Gracias. Just about the same gap as between your top two, between second and third, and then it is about 2 seconds back to GJ Weeks in the 97. Once again, Outlaw Racing with a great showing here with Johnny Eckert in second, DJ Weeks in third, and Jake Bustos in fourth. Bill Edwards got a little squirrely maybe, or trying to make the pass on Tellier. He's trying to pass Tellier up into turn 3. Gets that position through the corner.
And there's Thuggy out there, Mitchell, having a good run. Thuggy's another guy that he doesn't speak as much as he shows up and just does it on the racetrack. And seeing him running up this well this early on is also a good sign, I think, for his long-term prospects. I think when Tristan Maher wins another race here at TNR, it's going to be one of those like surprise deals. Not saying that he couldn't just win it on merit, but I think he'll just sneak up on everyone slow and steady and just be there at the end. And right now, these guys are putting themselves in a position to be contenders later on in the race. So we'll have to keep our eye on more than just the usual suspects, I think, here at Homestead.
I believe he has C2 graphics on the hood of that car as well. Looks awfully close to the logo we had for them here. Not quite the same thing, but again, a big thank you to C2 Graphics for sponsoring today's race at Homestead Miami Speedway as Bill Edwards works his way past Tristan Maher. Bill Edwards, a driver on the move here on the long run, Garrett. Bill started at 8th place, now up to 6th. But you have to like that car, he's made a couple passes here over the last few laps, past Tristan, past Mike Tellier. And those are not easy drivers to pass by any means either. So you have to feel like as he catches Jake Bustos, that 5 car's got pretty good long run pace here tonight, which is what you want at a track like Homestead.
Yeah, the long run pace we're seeing in this number 5, I think is very impressive, Mitchell. I was nervous when I saw him go back to about 9th place earlier in the run because he looked like a guy that was going to start up front and stay up front. And Bill's consistency is just key as far as saving his tires and being able to pass guys late in the run. And with the amount of green flag racing we've had so far this season here on the World Racing Network for the TNR Schue Lawn Care Series, that only continues to go in his favor. Guys like Bill Edwards, Jason Gracias, who just save tires and are smart with their race cars out there and do not beat themselves.
Yeah, like you talked about, most of the races we've had, I think all the races have been full of long green flag runs. And so having that long run speed has really been what a lot of these races have come down to. I think the only race off the top of my head was at Kansas where we had the 3 overtime finishes. If there was another one it came down to a situation like that, I don't really remember where it was so few laps. So that long run pace is what these drivers are working at. And Bill Edwards so far at Homestead has a lot of that. However, he is over 4 seconds behind race leader JD Laird, who is now stretched to 2.5 lead back to Johnny Eckert, and Jason Gracia still runs right behind Eckert. So once again, JD Laird on the longer run, just able to stretch that pace and keep running faster laps than his competition, as we are on the white flag lap of the stage. So when the leaders get past the start finish line, we'll see that stage caution. Everybody probably gonna come get 4 tires and fuel. Stage win here tonight, just like last week, gonna go to the 46 of JD Laird.
Yeah, 1 for 1 as far as JD Laird. Well, 2 for 2 actually. You get the pole, you get the stage win, and now you're gonna look for the entire race win. And maybe he'll even try to lead every lap and really stink up the show, but I don't really expect much different to JD Laird. He shows up, he's here to dominate, he's here to win races, and I don't think it's as easy as he's seen it here in the past in TNR, and that's just a testament to the type of talent and the type of racers we are developing here as a league as a whole. So, like you said, these guys are going to come down pit road, 4 tires. If they hit the wall, they'll get their damage fixed, and we're going to get back out there. And who knows, maybe we could go green to the end and get a green flag pit stop or 2 in the way.
Last week, just since you brought it up, JD Laird led 146 out of 150 laps at Rockingham. That was really the only race we've seen completely skewed one way. For the most part, there's been 2 or 3 drivers who've been sort of split evenly in terms of leading laps, but last week JD Laird just put on a show at Rockingham. Taking a look at the rest of the drivers scoring stage points, Johnny Eckert in 2nd place, Jason Gracias in 3rd, DJ Weeks in 4th place, Bill Edwards finished in 5th, Jake Bustos in 6th, Tristan Thuggy Maher 7th place, and the 47, Mike Floppy Tellier in 8th. Those are the drivers scoring stage points. First driver to miss out, you see him on screen, that's Joey Chapman in the number 60, who is another driver, Garrett, as the field comes down pit road. I don't think we've quite talked about Joey Chapman as much as some of the other drivers who came in later in the season, but this is a guy who's strung together 3 top 10 finishes in all 3 of his starts this season, including a top 5, and that also, he had the Daytona doubleheader being his first 2 starts of the season. So this is a driver so far, maybe not shown the flashy pace of, say, Johnny Eckert, who came in and has won 2 races, but he's putting together good, consistent runs, and I love to say, as long as you are running consistent and putting yourself in a position, eventually you're going to come away with a chance to win a race, if not a race win. And he's a driver who's done a great job of that so far.
Absolutely, Mitchell. And the thing, like, from my point of view as a league administrator and a broadcaster, I look at a driver and I say to myself, the first thing, is the talent there? With Joey Chapman, the talent is there. It's evident. It was evident from the first race. So with that, the consistency, start getting from top 10s to top 5s to top 3s, put yourself in position to win, and as the season goes on, that number 60 is just going to keep getting better and better, and like you said, it's only a matter of time, I think, and we will see that number 60 in victory lane.
Again, he finishes 9th place in the stage, just out of stage points. Not many changes up at the front of the field. Do want to know Jake Bustos going back down pit road, as is Robert Kenny in the number 34 machine. Possibly looking at fuel this early on, I'm not sure, but both of those drivers are down pit road once again. And in some races, that's very common to see drivers pull back down, get some fuel. Don't think of tracks like Homestead as much for that, and that might be not at all what they do, but you see the quick stop for Robert Kinney. I have to imagine that 4-second stop for both of them, Jason Schue also, was probably for fuel.
Yeah, what's the harm if you're running? I mean, Robert Kenny wasn't running towards the very back from what I know, Mitchell, but Jason Schue, come on in, top off. If this race ends up going green, you're able to stay out an extra lap or 2, you catch the right caution, and you look like a genius, and your crew chief could pat himself on the back. But looks like we have the boys racked up and ready to go racing again. JD Laird's flanked by a couple of the Outlaw boys, and seems to have chosen that top lane, Mitchell.
Yeah, he chose the top lane. Not super surprising. Sometimes we see that work very well at Homestead. That is, however, where James Lorello spun from, but I don't think he's going to have to go in side by side. Green flag in the air, and it is a great jump for Laird, who gets clean out to the front just like he wants to do. The action going to be further back in the pack here as they race through turns 1 and 2 down the back straightaway. Looks like everyone this time got through clean. Still double file through quite a bit of the field, but out front it is comfortable for JD Laird. Johnny Eckert slips into 2nd place. The action is right around here where you see Bill Edwards getting attacked by Tristan Maher. That is for the 5th position. And from 5th on back, it's a bunch of hard racing, but your top 4 single filed out. And Bill Edwards way up high.
Yeah, they don't call him Thuggy because he's a nice guy out there on the racetrack, Mitchell. He will sneak up on you and he will shiv you in the shower while you're not looking. So Thuggy sneaking up on Bill, but Bill's giving it back. These old guys know how to fight out there too, Mitchell, and what a battle, and this just proves how racy this racetrack is.
Yeah, that's exactly what we like about Homestead Miami Speedway, is how you can use any groove really on this racetrack and find competitive speed when you're racing with someone. You see Tristan really drive it in the inside, made it stick, and he's going to clear for that position. Right behind them is Joey Chapman battling with Jamar Dumas, and I hate to constantly bring it up, but Jamar Dumas not had good luck this season, so love seeing him in the top 10 right now, battling hard with Paul Bilson as well right behind them. Bilson, another driver who has not had the season he wants so far in TNR. So again, good to see that 00 as well running up in 9th place. Driver rounding out the top 10, Mike Floppy Tellier. And this is what Mike likes to do. He just sits back in the pack, not too flashy, but keeps his car clean and finds his way up toward the front of the field by the end of the race. This is what we've come to expect this season from Mike Tellier.
Mike, one of my longtime friends and somebody I've raced with more than probably anyone in this field. And this is a different side of Mike this season, Mitchell. This is the most consistent I've ever seen him. This is also the most aggressive I've seen him and the most successful I've seen him. And having all that just makes you feel like $1 million out there. And I could see Mike on a normal week being frustrated being in 10th place. But the way his season's going, he knows he's going to go from 10th to 8th to 6th into the top 5 by the end of this thing if all goes his way. And that number 47 was very fast in practice. I followed him for a couple laps, and I was very surprised with the performance of that race car. So like you said, he might just be biding his time. And even behind him, Philip Scott. Don't expect Philip Scott to be running outside the top 10. That's kind of crazy, especially at a place like Homestead. Just might not have the right balance of that number 99. But look for him to make his way towards the front as well.
I was just about to talk about Philip Scott too. That's another driver who's had a very consistent season in that World Ninja League 99 machine. Coming off a 4th place last week at Rockingham, got a top 5 in the Daytona doubleheader, and of course, won back at the Indianapolis road course. Currently the driver's 2nd place in points. So Philip, another driver, you look, yes, he's running outside the top 10, but he's doing a good job just taking care of his race car and kind of waiting for the opportunity to present himself a little bit. Got the camera still on this battle. It's a great 4-car battle here for the 7th position, currently occupied by Joey Chapman. We will shift back up to the front of the pack because it's very much reminiscent of what we saw in that first run with J.D. Laird out in the front of the field, Johnny Eckert in 2nd and Jason Gracias in 3rd. The difference this time is that they have not broken away from the rest of the field like they did in that opening stint of the race. You've got DJ Weeks right behind him, Tristan Maher's there, so is Bill Edwards. The top 6 now have broken away from the field. But if you're all these guys, you have to be mindful of that J.D. Laird long run pace. He showed it in that first run, his ability to stretch these tires farther than a lot of other guys can. How hard are you working this run to try and save your tires, to try and counter that and be able to keep up with J.D. a little bit better, because we saw him just break away in that first run.
Mitchell, this race has the feel of a green flag race. I think these guys can go somewhere between 35 and 40 laps on fuel. I am starting to save my tires the best I can right now, but I'm also starting to think about strategy. How am I going to pull this off and be able to beat the 46? Can I beat him down pit road by a lap or 2, get the fresh tire advantage and beat him that way? Or is there something else I'm going to need to do, 2 tires at the end of the race? But right now, Johnny Eckert, Jason Gracias, and this is what, top 5 or 6? They don't have to make a crazy strategy call because they are right there. And I think maybe that incident with Lorello at the beginning of the race is what put that gap. But now that that didn't happen, these guys are not letting this 46 get out of their sights, which is quite a difference from a week ago where JD just pulled away and didn't look back.
How many tire sets did these drivers have here tonight?
They have 3 sets in the pits, and we're assuming they used one of them already, so they will have 2 more sets of tires in the pits to use.
Theoretically here then, I'm just going to spitball, they can probably get to about lap 50, 55 would be expected on this tire set. You could see drivers pit as early as lap 40 here in a couple laps and be able to make it to the end. So this is a situation here that could open up a lot of short pitting opportunities here, and I think that's always what makes things interesting. We've seen a couple of races this season where drivers jumped off strategy just a little bit, and it's made for some very entertaining races. Homestead, also a track. I feel like that just tends to happen at more here than other tracks. I have no clue what it is about this place, but it just usually seems to open the door for off-strategy calls. This battle for second, really good here between Johnny Eckert and Jason Gracias, too. These drivers have been almost inseparable during this run as Gracias looks up the inside.
This might be it for Jason Gracias. He finally be able to make this pass on the 90 of Johnny Eckert. He's been working him over here for multiple laps, and actually it seems like the first 37 laps of the race here, but Johnny's going to fight him hard on that outside, and what that's doing, Mitchell, is slowing them both down and allowing JD to pull away and allowing the 4th place vehicle of Weeks to close himself right in.
Yeah, DJ Weeks runs in 4th, Bill Edwards right behind him 5th, also Tristan Maher back there. And still side by side out of turn number 4, and just like that, about a 3/10 of a second lead for JD Laird has gone to 1 second. That's how much being side by side slows these drivers down, and really if you're either of them, you're going to want to clear this guy as soon as possible, and as they continue to run side by side, you just get really tired, really, of running side by side. You're burning your tires off, and you think you're faster than the other guy, and you see Johnny Eckert on that outside able to prevail. I don't think Jason Grassi is probably very happy about that situation either. Obviously, he's not like super mad behind the wheel. That's not how he drives. But obviously, he's been pacing with the 90 pretty much all race. Probably felt like that was his chance. And maybe now you didn't complete that pass. You're probably going to be stuck running behind him again before that opportunity opens the door, because the tires just heat up so fast like that.
Yeah, the tires are the main thing, Mitchell. Like you just said, those tires heating up, getting more wear in your tires. That might have been your best chance to make the pass. Now you're going to fall back into the clutches of Bill Edwards, who has proven that he's very good at saving his tires. And looking at 99 of Philip Scott, 64 of Vincent Alvano, 55 of Steven Doziak, a little further back in the pack with a decent battle.
Vincent Valvano just got around Philip Scott for the 11th place position, moving up here on the long run. Love to see that speed out of Vinny again. He's shown quite a bit of speed this season. Had some runs up around the top 5, and again here today. Not quite up that far yet in the field, but certainly, like we saw from Bill Edwards earlier, he seems to have some really good long run speed in that race car. The battle for the 2nd place position once again heating up, and this time Jason Gracias able to get through. Bill Edwards thought about trying to follow him. Now the crossover comes from Johnny Eckert. He does not want to give it up that easy. Last time we saw Eckert hold the position on the high line. That time Gracias makes it work on the low line, and that just demonstrates that multi-groove racing we like to talk about.
Yeah, as these tires wear, Mitchell, these guys are using every bit of this racetrack, and it certainly looks fun out there. I think guys questioned whether or not the setup would be racy. The setup and track conditions would be racy, but they're doing a very good job with it right now, and the guys that are saving their tires are able to make the moves they need to get towards the front.
On board with the number 90 of Johnny Eckert, Bill Edwards just works his way around that 5. Eckert works a more middle groove down to the lower lane. You see Jason Gracias and Bill Edwards more going straight down to that inside lane. Just different ways of getting around this racetrack as Eckert now slips back into 4th place. Not too far behind him, working that outside lane, you see the Kyle Larson line. That's Tristan Thuggy Maher in the 17. who's shown a lot of good pace again on this run. A very fast car for Tristan tonight. DJ Weeks also keeping pace with this front group. JD Laird about a second and a half is his lead over Jason Gracias currently. And just a little bit behind these drivers, Jamar Dumas up in 7th place, Joey Chapman in 8th, and Mike Floppy Tellier in 9th. Paul Bilson was running with these guys. He slipped back a little bit. He is now in 10th. Let's just turn this into a through the field because we're basically doing one already. Then it's the 64 Vincent Valvano in 11th place. Steven Doziak, 55 in 12th. Under fire from Robert Kenny, actually, I'm a little bit mistaken here. That is Philip Scott, actually, in the 12th position. There we go. I got it right. He just got around Robert Kenny. Jake Bustos in 15th. I'm a little bit twisted up here. James Lorello in the 16th position, back on track now. Bob Giaquinto in the tabletop trio machine in 17th. We have to take these chances, too, to shout out Tabletop Trio for sponsoring the Lucky Dog Award. We've been able to give away so few times this season because we've had so few cautions here. So again, big thank you to the Tabletop Trio podcast. Sponsors our Lucky Dog Award. Robert Tripp in the 35 runs in 18th. First start here, Stephen Morgan in 19th. Good consistent run. It is Jason Schue in the number 3 and 20th, and Johnny Williams 21st. Everybody still on the lead lap, 46 laps into this race. You'd love to see that.
Yeah, that's great. Everybody's doing a very good job out there, keeping their vehicles clean for the most part. And I know that was a little bit of a struggle for you, Mitchell. Take a breather. We'll look at this 46 of JD Laird out there just running a different line than I'm used to seeing here at Homestead, but it's certainly working for him. And I just want to say how much I appreciate you giving a through the field for these guys. Some guys, you think maybe I'm running 15th, I'm not going to get the camera time for my loved ones or my fans or sponsors, whoever see it, and that's why the World Racing Network brings you that experience. And we try to shout out as many people as we can, because if you're taking time to watch our race or be a part of Total Nonstop Racing, we want to acknowledge you because we are grateful for having you in the field, in the broadcast, wherever it may be. Take a look at the action here. Paul Bilson, Steven Doziak out there, and just a bunch of guys having fun, Mitchell, from my point of view, as Robert Tripp brings it to pit road and starts the cycle here.
Yeah, Robert Tripp going to be the first taker down pit road. You were exactly right, though, Garrett. Sometimes, and this is the cameraman's kind of my flaw, we miss some of these good battles back in the pack just looking at the leaders, but oftentimes you see a battle here between Jake Bustos, Robert Kenny. There's a lot of good stuff that happens here in the pack. We do our best to spread the airtime throughout the pack as much as we can. And we've seen a lot of good battles here in the pack tonight. It's been very even. You've also got Joey Chapman going to battle with Mike Floppy Tellier for the 8th position. Tellier wants it. Chapman has it right now. So far, Robert Tripp, the only driver to have come down pit road. I'm a little surprised no one took earlier than that. I probably would have if I was not one of your top 3, maybe top 5, as Tellier clears Chapman. Just because we've seen the pace from JD Laird. He's currently a 2.5 seconds in front of Jason Gracias, who runs in second over Bill Edwards. The 90 of Eckert has slipped back a little bit. But, I mean, going off strategy in a race that seems to be going green is sometimes about your only chance to get up here. And again, we talk about points racing. Not everyone wants to make those big plays for the lead, risk a bad finish for the potential of a little bit of a better finish than maybe you're doing now. But still, I'm a little surprised we haven't had more takers. It's still only Robert Tripp. But I think that just goes, Garrett, to how good JD Laird has been, that we talk about you might have to get off strategy and hope something goes your way in order to go challenge this 46, just because of how speedy he's been the last couple weeks.
if you hesitate on the strategy, Mitchell, you're as good as done as far as your chances of winning this race. You need to have your number in your mind and just commit to it. And no matter what happens, you have to live with that decision. So, like you said, I expect these guys to come to pit road early and try to get an advantage on him, but they must not feel like they're in that window yet. But I expect it to be fast approaching because they are losing time to JD now. He's starting to pull away, and I think you need to take a chance. Somebody like Mike, you're running in 8th. Maybe you jump this pit strategy, you could find yourself up in 5th, and then you just work off that strategy until the next stop. So, something to keep an eye on, Mitchell. I don't think we're in the wrong by thinking that these guys should be coming to pit road soon, but it is surprising they haven't done so already.
Yeah, still waiting on anybody else to take down pit road. And just on cue, ooh, Paul Bilson very hot into the pits, almost missed the entrance. Hopefully he got that down to speed in time. Bilson now down pit road, pits from the top 10. We watched Jamar Dumas get around DJ Weeks for the 7th position on track. Another good battle here has been between Jake Bustos and Robert Kenny. We looked at them just a handful of laps ago. They have not separated either. Kenny gets a little loose out of turn number 4. Some good mid-pack battles here at this race tonight. That's something we love to see, the action spread out through the field, and that's something that TNR has been great at this season, every season, but this season we've broadcasted especially is what I can talk about. Very good races. Johnny Williams, I believe, just got put 1 lap down, or as close to being put a lap down by your race leader, J.D. Laird. Not quite, but he's getting a little bit close now. Go on board with that 46. Waiting on any other driver still to come down pit road. No takers. I'm personally very surprised, Garrett. No one's been down pit road yet. That's exactly why I'm not a crew chief. But
well, you're very good up here in the booth, Mitchell. I don't want you becoming a crew chief. I feel like you've found your calling. You're also a very good race car driver, and I just want to give a shout out to my good friend Johnny Williams. He's on the lead lap here, 56 laps into the race. Johnny does not get to race all the time. He's got a lot going on in his life, health-wise and whatnot, and he's the type of guy that just enjoys this, enjoys being able to come out here every Monday. And you're having yourself a good run, Johnny, and you've put up a good fight here, staying on the lead lap, and just don't wreck the leader as he passes you, and get that tabletop trio lucky dog and get yourself back in the hunt, bud.
Johnny Williams down pit road. He'll be the 3rd driver to come down. Like you've said, yeah, we've seen when he has been able to run, it hasn't always been the great runs I think he'd like. He's had some issues, and tonight it's been a great showing for that number 9 here at Homestead. Got W Energy on the side. So Johnny Williams, fantastic run thus far here tonight. I'm kind of waiting to see which of these leaders is going to be the first to flinch. I think if it's J.D. Laird, we've seen this from him too. He's not going to want to be that first guy down pit road when he has a 4-second lead. I'm looking probably at a driver like Bill Edwards or Jason Gracias running 2nd or 3rd, possibly to be the first one to jump down into the pit lane. The tire fall off here in this run, the best lap of the race is a 33.727. That was run by Johnny Eckert on fresh tires. Currently, these drivers pacing in the mid 35-second bracket, so about 2 seconds of fall off here in tonight's race, which is what we would normally expect. And that means, theoretically, if you have some good out laps, all you need is to short pit a guy by 2 laps, maybe 3, and you've got a shot at passing that race leader. But that's exactly why J.D. Laird, as soon as one of those guys jumps down, he's probably right down pit road.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I think you pretty much, JD's going to let everyone else dictate to him when he's going to make his pit stop, because he has that lead in the bag. And I know we talk about this a lot with JD, whether he should be the first one to pit road, take the chance. But when you have that little bit in the bank, there's no need to make a withdrawal right away.
Continuing to look for good battles through the field. We've got one here between Philip Scott and Jake Bustos. Bustos working his way around Philip for the 11th position on the track. I don't think tonight is quite Ben Phillips' night. He's doing a good job hanging around the top 10. Obviously would want a little bit more, but that's why you put that emphasis on just good, consistent runs, because I know he wants to be up in the top 5 battling for this win, and so far that's just not been the way his cards have been dealt tonight, but he's still doing a good job keeping it clean. Tristan Maher, I think, missed the pit entrance. Got a bunch of damage on the back of that race car. Bill Edwards is in pit road. We're going to go back and look, because I think, and yes, something did happen with that number 17 trying to get down pit road. This is Tristan Maher. There's Jamar Dumas. Maher trying to get to the pits. I don't think Dumas quite got up the track enough. Rear bumper contact, and that is a big error. It's not really an error for the 17 because that's not something within his control. That's a costly mistake as you see him now off pace down the back straightaway. And JD Laird down pit road. But that's just a mistake you don't want to happen if you're either of those drivers, but especially Tristan Maher. That hurt a good top 5 run.
Yeah, that's a race killer as far as the 17 goes. Well, the yellow, I mean, you're pretty much giving up 2 laps there. And that's a shame. I don't know if Tristan called out on the radio late, didn't call it out loud enough. I don't expect something like that to happen here at TNR. So I do have to go. Oh, we look like we have our newbie spinning into pit road. The first green flag pit stop for Mr. Morgan did not look like it turned out too good.
It's a tough pit entrance here at Homestead. Give him some credit for that. This is another one of those tricky pit entrances you have here. But hey, I mean, that's the learning process. Your first green flag stop in TNR. I know we do green flag stops all the time on iRacing, but still, there's a lot of pressure that comes along with your first green flag stop in a league. And he did a good job too. No caution for it. Kept it rolling in the pit lane. Got to his box all right, and we're all good. Johnny Eckert down pit road now out of the lead. New race leader will be Jake Bustos. Again, keep in mind the incentive for some of these drivers to stay out longer on the pit cycle is a bonus point for leading a lap. That's oftentimes when I was driving, that was incentive enough for me to wait out a lap or two, because that single point, it really does play a big factor when we get down into the later portions of this season. Everyone has been down pit road except for Jake Bustos and Jason Schue. Everyone else in this field has made their green flag stops. Would expect those two here pretty soon. Bustos down pit road. We'll see if Jason Schue stays on the track. He looks to be coming down as well. Yes, he is. So that means that the field has cycled through, and JD Laird, to no surprise really, has maintained the race lead. He pitted a lap after Bill Edwards, I believe. And it will be that 46 in front of... Scoring's all messed up here because of the green flag pit cycle. Pretty sure it's Bill Edwards, though, in the number 5. Looks to be where he is on the racetrack. Oh, got a little high out of turn number 2. Caught him at the wrong time. And that's just Bill pushing hard, trying to keep up with that 46, because you know, green flag race, Garrett, that's exactly what JD Laird wants, because he is going to stretch out this race lead.
Yeah, JD's just looking to put down consistent laps and extend his lead, and Bill's looking to make up as many tenths of a second as he possibly can out there, and you're going to push hard off each and every corner, and that's what we saw there as we went live to the number 5 of Bill Edwards. But when you're in JD's position here, you're just pretty much cruise control with that big of a lead.
See, on the World Racing Network head-to-head there, it's a 4.6 seconds back. I don't know why I'm tripping over my words so much here tonight. For Bill Edwards, you can see him losing a little bit of time. Or JD Laird actually losing a little bit of time to Bill Edwards. He cut that gap in slightly. Take a look and see here. A good battle going on already between these 3 cars here, led by the 97 of DJ Weeks, Joey Chapman, Mike Tellier, and the number 28 of Jamar Dumas right in front of them. This is the battle for the top 5. Dumas sits in 5th right now. your Tristan Maher update is that he is sitting in 18th, 2 laps down. That is how costly that mistake was. I keep calling it a mistake. Nothing the 17 could do in that situation, but just an unfortunate thing that happened to him. Like you said, cost him a great run here at Homestead without several cautions and several Tabletop Trio lucky dogs.
Yeah, he's going to need a miracle to get back into contention, and just Tristan's back to thinking, oh, why me? What horrible luck. And Tristan has had races like that, and this is one that he did not expect to end up the way it ended up with. So a tough break for the 17. Could be a valuable points position for someone else as they're able to capitalize on that and make their way up a little further in the field.
DJ Weeks able to get around Jamar Dumas for the 5th place position. That puts 2 of your 5 cars in the top 5 are from Outlaw Racing. The battle behind them, Mike Tellier a little bit in front of, well, that's actually a lap car. He wasn't in front of anybody relative on track. Philip Scott not too far ahead of Vincent Valvano. We saw these two battling in the last run once again. Philip and Vinny going at it here as we start this second green flag run. They pitted about lap 60, a little bit after lap 60. Do you think, Garrett, that they are good to the end, or do you think they're needing to make another stop? I think they're definitely on the border of being able to make it or not.
Yeah, I think they're going to come back down pit road, Mitchell. I mean, it's possible that someone towards the very end of that fuel cycle will have enough fuel on, but will they be close enough to the front of the field where that's going to make a difference? I'm not really sure, Mitchell. You know, now you have me doubting myself, so I guess that's why we're going to stay tuned here on the World Racing Network and just see what happens.
Yeah, you got to keep it locked in here on this Monday night. We've got a good schedule of racing coming up, too, on Monday nights. You watched Bob Giaquinto and Robert Tripp were going at it here a couple laps ago. Got next week, I know, is New Hampshire, and then we have an off week before we come back and we race at Talladega, which always fan favorite. That's a fantastic race. Richmond, Texas, Darlington, Bristol, and Vegas. That's a handful of very good tracks to finish off this season. And I haven't talked about it as much on the air, but we've talked about it before and after some of the races about how good this TNR schedule is this season. You all did such a good job putting together a good variety of tracks, and it just shows us a whole bunch of disciplines, and it allows different guys to get up here and race. And it's just been a fantastic season here for this Total Nonstop Grand National Series, sponsored by Schue Lawn Service.
Mitchell, I'm not gonna. I don't like taking credit for a lot of things. A lot of great administrators here at TNR. Mike's doing a tremendous job on the track, but you know that schedule I put together by myself very quickly and just hoped for the best, and so far it has not disappointed. But New Hampshire is a place that we have not raced historically here in the Total Nonstop Racing League, and it's going to be a new experience for a lot of these guys that don't have many laps there. And I'm looking forward to it in a way, but I also know there's a potential that it could be a bit crazy. But we haven't done crazy so far yet this season, so maybe we'll be good at it.
New Hampshire's not a track we see a lot in leagues. I don't really know why that is, but it's just not a track. I don't think I've ever raced in a league at New Hampshire. Typically, you see that more in like the late model and modified series here on iRacing. So I'm very excited to see these guys go there next week. I think it's going to be a fantastic race. That's a very unique, very fun racetrack. Looking forward to that one. Keeping it here, though, in the C2 Graphics 150 at Homestead Miami Speedway. Again, big thank you to C2 Graphics for sponsoring tonight's race. Mike Tellier worked his way around Jamar Dumas, so Dumas sliding back just a little bit. Not too bad for him, though. A decent battle forming up here for the second place position. Bill Edwards has it right now, but Jason Grassi is tracking him down. And Jason, it has been a very solid, consistent run. Been up inside the top 5 all night long. Spent most of it in the top 3. And right now, tracking down Bill Edwards, who's another driver who's shown great long-run pace here tonight. I know Jason would love to go up there and race with J.D. Laird. Probably going to need a caution to do it. But still, you've got to be happy with this run. Like you said, hasn't been on the track a ton. I don't think he has a ton of rust, but you have to say that. And third place, that's a fantastic, consistent run. The fact that he's been here all race long.
Yeah, sorry about that, Mitchell. I was in a different world there for a second, but these two guys out here, Bill Edwards, Jason Gracias. You said Jason's dusting off the rust, and Bill has to be made of cobwebs at his age, and they're out there, and looks like Jason's coming on here more towards the end, and Bill seemed to take that spot, and I thought that was Bill's spot to keep, but Jason's doing a good job capitalizing that. And he disappears, Mitchell. He could be anywhere right now.
Yeah, there went Jason Gracias. We hope he returns to the racetrack. There he is. Blinking not been an issue really tonight. There was another one. That was only his 4th of the race, so he's not been doing too bad. Just a couple right there. Bill Edwards back down pit road. The strategy call by Bill Edwards. I think that's going to confirm the fact that these drivers likely have another pit stop here tonight, and I like that call if they do for Bill Edwards. The Windsor's out in the chat saying not to pick on Bill Garrett. I love the call though for Bill Edwards being the first driver to jump down pit road again, assuming that everyone else is going to have to. A great call to put himself in a position, probably going to get this spot back as Gracias stays out. I know that Bill likes to be a strategy contrarian. Robert tripped down pit road. He was the first one on the last run to jump down pit road. You would almost think these drivers would more urgently jump down pit road once someone does, although that threw me off run number 1 as well. I'd have pitted about 10 laps earlier than they all did, so what do I know? But they continue to stay out clock laps. J.D. Laird dominating just like he did last week. Here's a good battle, a little bit back in the pack, or has the makings of being a good battle. Philip Scott and Vincent Valvano. This has been a battle all race long. Vinny's starting to pace back toward Philip just a little bit. Philip stretched it out short run, and Vinny showing that long run pace again. Again, a great run for him in the TNR machine here tonight. Top 10 currently, Bob Giaquinto down pit road in that tabletop trio 23.
Yeah, here they come, Mitchell. I think our prediction that they were going to have to make another pit stop is coming into play. And Bill Edwards might be holding the right cards here because he was the first one down to capitalize on the strategy. And just for Bill's mom, I've said so many nice things about Bill these past couple of weeks. You have to forgive a couple shots, all right? I have a reputation to maintain in the booth. I can't be nice all the time. You need a heel commentator like in wrestling. Like, you can't just always cheer for the good guy, Mitchell.
It makes things interesting. For sure.
That's exactly why I usually don't take my meds before the broadcast, Mitchell. I want to be as unhinged as possible up here.
Yeah, sir. Again, it's a pleasure having you up here in the booth with me. Been fun all season long. And you said it, Bill. If this works the way he wants to, he's done it exactly right with this strategy. He should make up quite a bit of time. The pace for J.D. Laird is not like he's saving a ton of fuel either. He's running about 35s, and that's consistent through the field. High to mid 35-second lap times, except a little bit further back you have just slightly into the 35s. So that leads me to believe no one's really saving fuel because they're running the exact same lap time, so they're not doing it dramatically. You have 17 laps to go in this race by my math, too. So you don't, if you have to pit, you don't want to wait too long. You want to get out on those tires and take advantage of that lap time. But right now, Johnny Williams down pit road now. no one else really is taking to pit road, which leads me to think maybe they do think they can get to the end. I just don't know. I've been a little bit confused. I've been confused all night long, but with this strategy especially, it's an interesting scenario, but it's not as cut and dry as we saw at like Dover earlier this year, where it was very clear you had the drivers who pitted for fuel, those who didn't, and had to come back and get tires. This race is more just about when do you pit or do you pit at all, and it's going to be a very interesting race to watch. But currently with 15 laps to go, it just kind of leaves us a little bit confused as to where everyone is in terms of fuel and making it to the end.
Mitchell, do you have the number in front of you when the number 46 made his pit stop under green flag? Because if you do, I think we're thinking about 40 laps, so we could kind of do the math on that and see what we have.
I can tell you that J.D. Laird, along with Jason Gracias, who runs in second, pitted 26 laps ago, which would be about lap 61, which would make it a 39-lap run to the end of this race, which would put you right on that fuel window we expect. Vincent Valvano pits from the 9th position. I keep doing that. That's Steven Doziak. I've done that for Joey Chapman, and I've done that for Vincent Valvano. I pick up Steven Doziak because Doze's number shows up as white with the slight green outline that you can't really see. So it's just a white box, and I know it's around the 60s, so I usually just click on it because it's the same thing for the other two drivers with number 60s.
You know what, Mitchell, I forgive you completely. It's not that you like Steven Doziak all that much. It's that the gravitational pull of his fat girlfriends is actually getting you to click the wrong thing. So our apologies here on the World Racing Network. It's all Doze's fault.
That sounds like completely accurate science you have there. J.D. Laird continues to stay on the racetrack, completing lap 28 of this run with 12 laps to go in the race. He is looking at a 40-lap fuel run. I'm going to think extra hard here. Stage was lap 20, pitted lap 60. That is 40 laps. So theoretically, if you take out those couple of caution laps that allowed them to save some fuel, they are probably maybe looking at two-stopping this race. 11 laps to go. And again, no one is dramatically falling off pace either, so they don't seem too concerned. So maybe that was just Bill Edwards maybe wanting to catch a caution at some point or trying to get off strategy. Joey Chapman pits from the 9th position now, was 10th. Then got promoted up to 9th place when Valvano pit, I believe. So now 10 laps to go as Laird crosses the line. He is 4.5 seconds in front of Jason Gracias. And the big question we don't know, Garrett, is can these guys make it to the end? Thinking about the math, they should be able to, especially J.D. Laird and Jason Gracias having 30 laps on fuel. That's the most anybody has on this run. In third place, Johnny Eckert's been out 28 laps. The same for DJ Weeks, Mike Tellier. Kenny's been out 29. Philip Scott and Jamar Dumas 30. The same as your top two. Jake Bustos 27 and Doze 30. So everyone has been out about the same. If you think that J.D. Laird is probably good to the end, you have to imagine Johnny Eckert here is good as he works his way around Johnny Williams. Yeah, Johnny, he's running 5 laps down, but it's still been a great night. And Johnny, this is a race. He just wants to finish this one here tonight. Hasn't had the success he wants to, has a couple DNFs, but tonight it's been a great showing again for that number 9 machine. And sometimes you need that. You have some bad races, but once you get a good, clean race under your belt, that can sometimes be what you need to just set you off in the right direction again.
Yeah, get that one finish under your belt, and then you work on the next one, Mitchell, and that's what Johnny's trying to do out there. Hey, I completed most of the laps tonight, and we'll go from there. Just want to say, Mitchell, I mean, at this point, there's no doubt in my mind that J.D. Laird can make it on fuel, because if he couldn't, I think we'd know by now. He'd either have pitted or he'd be saving so much that we would notice something. So these guys have played it absolutely perfect. And for anyone in the chat that's saying, well, how come these guys don't know what the fuel mileage is? I asked these guys before the race. I heard them talking. I heard 35 to 40 laps. Maybe some guys were getting a little better mileage, and they are right at the edge of that window. And we can't say, we don't have the data in front of us that says this guy's using this much throttle compared to this guy, and know how much fuel they're using. So we know the fuel window is close, and we're not just speaking from a place of ignorance. We did do our research. It's just that tough to tell. These guys are so close on fuel, we think, and we'll have to ask them in our post-race interview how close they actually were.
Yeah, we work with fuel mileage. It's windows like that, and it's rough estimates about probably what these guys can get, and it all depends on how you drive this track. I think you're exactly right, though. 6 laps to go, no pace back off for any of these drivers. You have to imagine they're probably good to the end. It's just when you have some drivers come down and pit, you think, oh, well, maybe there's some strategy games going on. But it doesn't appear to be that way. 5 laps to go for J.D. Laird. He is currently 3rd in points. Tonight would have to help that effort. He is 69 points behind points leader Bill Edwards. 3 wins so far on the season. With another win here tonight, that would give him the outright lead for most wins of the season. He's currently tied with Mike Tellier with 3 wins apiece. Tellier, a solid top 5 run. Again, that's what Mike Tellier does. He's been running just quietly around the top 10, inside the top 10, and now worked his way up to 5th place here in the closing laps. Has a chance to run down DJ Weeks as well. Another great run for Mike Tellier. Jason Gracias is 2nd, Johnny Eckert 3rd, Weeks 4th. Tellier 5th. Philip Scott, we talk about Philip again as he was just outside the top 10, maybe not having the day he wants to have. All of a sudden, I don't know how, he's up into 6th place. Courtesy of, I think, some drivers pitting in front of him, but also he's just been so consistent, and that's exactly what we talk about here with just a handful of laps to go. Battle with Robert Kinney, too.
Yeah, you can't ask for much more than 99. He seemed to be towards the back half of that top 10. Now he's knocking on the door of a top 5 here. If somebody else pulls off or has a little bit of trouble, he's going to capitalize. So a good point stay for Phillip, and looks like he's saying hello to that wall or getting a little bit of lag there and showing like he's hitting the wall. But good run by the 99. Good run by the 34 here of Robert Kinney. And wow, Mitchell, another race here, and not many yellows other than the stage break, and you can't really complain about that from a broadcasting point of view, because that gets us out of here way earlier than expected.
Yeah, and that's been the trend all season long. These drivers just so clean. We've gotten a lot of races, I feel like that's the case. We went green flag almost all the way. You see the gap almost the entire back straightaway between J.D. Laird and Jason Gracias in 2nd place. Coming out of turn number 4 to take the white flag here in the C2 Graphics 150 is J.D. Laird. Just 1 lap to go. Another dominant performance for driver of the JDR Graphics number 46 machine. He's definitely, and I believe he said last week, he's going to be here more races than he thought. Maybe going to get to compete for the championship. Certainly looks in championship form all season long, but especially these last couple of weeks as he exits turn number 4. J.D. Laird picks up the win in the C2 Graphics 150. Congratulations to him on another amazing performance. Jason Gracias comes in 2nd. Had a good battle with Johnny Eckert in the closing laps. Eckert is 3rd, and we will talk to those podium drivers. Also, rounding out your top 5, DJ Weeks in 4th and Mike Tellier in 5th. But tonight, again, it was J.D. Laird's race to lose, and he did not lose this one. Just can't, I guess, overstate how good he's been running these last few weeks.
Yeah, really no surprise, Mitchell, but it wasn't as easy as I think he expected early on. Johnny Eckert, Jason Gracias gave him everything they had, and just when it mattered, JD was able to pull away and put that gap between and cruise to another victory. But Cam Caldwell, C2 Graphics 150, sponsoring the race, a very talented designer, and the race was won by another very talented designer. So a little bit of maybe rivalry, maybe mutual respect, but can't say I'm surprised seeing the 46. Burn it down, JD. You certainly earned this one. And can't wait to talk to our top 3 finishers here on the World Racing Network. And I think I usually do second place. I get to talk to Jason Gracias. It's been a while since I talked to that crazy son of a gun.
Yeah, we're going to get to talk to your top 3 finishers, JD Laird, Jason Gracias, and Johnny Eckert here in just a moment. We'll let JD Laird do his victory celebrations, and then we will be right back here on the World Racing Network for the post-race show. Welcome back here on the World Racing Network. Time to talk to your top 3 finishers here in tonight's race, and we kick it off with driver of the Outlaw Racing number 90 machine, Johnny Eckert. Another fantastic run here for you tonight. The podium finish, getting to talk to you again. You've had a bunch of really good races, and tonight, no exception to that.
Yeah, it's nice that I didn't blow away. Um, but yeah, that the car drove awful. The racing was rough. I mean, you got within half a second of somebody, and then the arrow on top of the 30-mile-an-hour winds just made it impossible to really go anywhere. You couldn't move up. You had to pretty much stick to one lane. And yeah, once your tires got burned up from the arrow push, then there's nothing else to do. So yeah, it's shouldn't have been third. I felt like on strategy might have had a shot to fight with JD, but the minute I got to Gracias rear bumper, the tires overheated. Just I don't know, the car just disappeared.
Homestead's a track we usually expect to have some tire fall off, and you talked about just the poor handling here tonight. Could you tell everyone else around you kind of struggling with the same things?
Yeah, I mean the car was. I mean, you couldn't drive if you went entered high, for example, in 1 and 2. The car pushed pretty bad. Just it felt like the car was like rotating on itself and just pushing straight to the wall. So you had to run. You pretty much got forced to run to the bottom. And then, if you didn't take care of the right front and it overheated once, that was it. I mean, it pushed and pushed and pushed, and it was hard to do anything. There were some guys that were like in the first run. I heard there was a few guys that really made some ground up early, and that's great. But shipping it for 20 laps is one thing. Trying to do the same thing, for whatever the run was, 38 or 40. It's a completely different thing. So it was, really, really. I could see that a lot of people were struggling. I was struggling. My teammates can tell you that I was not a happy camper in practice, and it got even worse in the race. But it was this was it was a rough race, really, really rough.
Well, still, you pull out a really good third place finish here tonight. Next week, we move to New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Me and Garrett talked about not a track a lot of leagues run at very much. Not one I've ever broadcasted a race at before. But that should be a very interesting race. What are your thoughts headed into New Hampshire?
I mean, New Hampshire's I've run there quite a few times in other leagues, but um I don't know if we get ice tires or something, maybe rain. I don't know. It if we get another um, weather event that makes it more compelling, I guess. It should be pretty much what we did today. So, um, you know, it'll be a good race probably. I mean, if we have 100-mile-an-hour winds, maybe we'll blow away first, and then whoever stays on the track longest will make it. But yeah,
Well, we are looking forward to that one. Before we let you go here tonight, though, I'll turn the floor over to you to give any shout outs you would like to.
yeah. First off, thank you guys, broadcast, the admin team for putting on the show. Thanks to my teammates DJ Weeks and Jake Bustos for listening to my rants tonight. Yeah, looking forward to the next few weeks. Oh, congrats to JD. Um, I know he was toying with me in the first half of the race in that stage, and second half of the race he was gone. So, yeah, it was congrats to him on an easy victory on that one, and yeah, we'll see what we got in New Hampshire next week.
Best of luck to you next week at New Hampshire. Maybe we'll get to talk to you again there.
If I don't get wrecked, yeah, hopefully.
That was Johnny Eckert in the Outlaw Racing number 90 machine. And now Garrett Gleason gets to catch up with your second place finisher here tonight, Jason Gracias.
Hey, Daddy, what's up? Welcome back to Total Nonstop Racing. It was good to have you out there in the field. From what I just heard in that interview by Johnny Eckert, I gave you guys a piece of crap race car and setup and track condition to drive. But how'd it feel out there, bud?
It was just nice to not getting wrecked for once, so I had a blast.
Well, that's good. And we were we weren't surprised to see you up near the front of the field, but I've become accustomed to seeing you start towards the back and make your way towards the front. Did you think you had anything for JD tonight, or did you think you were pretty much second or third all night long?
If conditions were different for this race, it was tighter than Freeman's butthole off of 2, but looser than Doe's after, a back 9 with the boys on Sunday, so off of 4. So I don't know. If the wind wasn't as bad, then maybe I could have something for JD. But dirty air played a part. I messed up qualifying, so I couldn't get past the 90 car. And when I finally did get past him, I used up my tires, and then the last run I was able to save some clean air and save some fuel. To take it home for a second place. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe with the different conditions, maybe a hotter, slick track during the day. Maybe I could give JD a run for his money like we did, I think, 2 seasons ago when we had a really cool, almost, uh, you know, beat and bang finish.
Yeah, I gotta take the blame on that. I think I really screwed up the track conditions, and it was not intentional. Just so everyone knows, I didn't give you guys what you needed out there, but you guys put on a very clean race, and I can't be upset about that. But I know you've been busy with life. Life is throwing a lot at you. You're kind of a part timer this season. We gonna see you next week at New Hampshire?
Um, Possibly. I'm not 100% sure yet. I'll try to make as many as I can. I just can't commit to anything, unfortunately, with everything going on in my personal life. So maybe. Um, we'll see.
Well, it was certainly nice having you back. You're certainly one of the guys I consider a brother out there, and one of the best drivers I've ever had the privilege of being on track with. So, with that being said, congratulations on your second place run, and the floor is yours. If you'd like to give any shout outs to maybe our boy Chris Darling and that nice Max Graphics paint scheme, have at it, bud.
Yeah, just thanks to you for putting the league together, Mitchell for the broadcast. I actually have been slacking with life. I shot over my season payment, so hopefully you guys got that. Anyone in the chat looking for a fun place to race, please join us. We had a couple new guys come in recently, and from what I've seen and heard and experienced this week, the racing's been great. Thanks to my staple sponsor, Chris Darling, over at Max Graphics, for the always nice paint schemes. If you guys need any paint work done for iRacing or logos or graphics or sponsor um, proposals, whatever have you, just hit up Chris over at maxgraphics.co. Find him on Facebook, Discord. Um, he's pretty much worldwide now. He's kind of famous. He's on a couple of real cars, so um, it's good guy, quality work. Yeah, but yeah, thanks everybody, and I'll see you when I see you.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. And I just want to say how famous Chris Darling is. I actually sent him a message maybe 2 weeks ago, and he hasn't gotten back to me. Just asking him how life was. He must really be that busy. I used to talk to Chris almost every day, and it's great seeing him have the amount of success he's having because he put all the blood, sweat, and tears in over the years, and he certainly deserves it. So, yeah, congratulations to him, and congratulations to you on your second place.
Thank you.
Gonna throw it down to Mitchell Adams, who is at the pretty much weekly JD Laird victory party here at the Total Nonstop Racing League. I hope you're not covered in champagne, confetti, and I hope that beautiful paint scheme of JD's isn't covered in anything sticky either, Mitchell. Have at it.
Yeah, no, JD Laird's race car looking very good still parked here in Victory Lane. Welcome back, JD. It's been about a week since we've seen you here. Once again, you led all but 4 laps here tonight. It's been a great string of races here for you. Just take us through tonight and the track and how you got back into Victory Lane.
I'm glad that we're being able to conduct this interview indoors because the monsoon winds that are going out on the racetrack right now would blow everything away. There would be nothing here.
That's what we've been hearing.
Oh yeah, it was a nice, brisk 30-mile-an-hour wind cross from turn 4 to turn 2. It was a handful. I went out there the first couple of laps of practice, and first attempt I knocked the wall down. Second time I knocked the wall down even further. The third time I knocked the wall down off of 2. I'm like, why? What's going on? And then I followed Floppy, and he pulled my pants down and ran away through 3 and 4. I'm like, okay, it's a super speedway essentially. It's a grip monster off of 4 because of the wind. So I knew at that point if I got behind any car, it was game over. And it wasn't my ego floating at that point. That was like a race survival, because if Johnny or Jason or Bill or anybody got in front of you, you had to make sure that you stayed out of their dirty air because you needed to find the grip. And if you didn't have the wind to help, if the wind wasn't there, it wouldn't have been that big of a problem. But the fans were turned on full blast, and it made for a interesting fuel mileage race.
I'm gonna talk about the fuel mileage too, because me and Garrett were just, mostly me, I don't want to throw Garrett into this, but just sitting up here in the booth a little bit confused about the fuel strategy, because you had a lot of guys, about probably 4 or 5 of you out of the top 10 who came down pit road, but then all the rest of you kept on running like nothing was happening. Just how close were you, I guess, is what I want to know about that fuel window. How close were you at the finish of that race?
I had enough for 1 lap. I knew like I was hoping to save 1 lap longer on that first stint, and I got too throttle happy in 3 and 4 for a few laps, and I burned the fuel back, burned the fuel off, and I could never get it back. So when I pitted, I'm like, I have a 5-second lead. I need to use this to my advantage, and I just drove like I drove my man parts and left them in the trailer. Like I had to use anything that I could, any car. I was only like 80% throttle, and I'm like, all right, let's see how much I can burn after a lap. And I burnt like a whole lap and a half of fuel in one shot because there was so much grip in turn 4. I'm like, nope, I can't do that. I gained an advantage. I gained like half a second, but I'm like, no, I can't do that anymore. You guys can burn your fuel trying to get to me, and if I run out of gas trying to do this and you guys don't, more power to you. But I figured by the time the tires wore off, that the pace that I was running would become more natural and they would burn their stuff off a little bit. But I knew I was at a disadvantage leading because I wouldn't be able to save fuel. But it ended up being my advantage because I was able to use the gap to my advantage.
Yeah, and that's just the benefit of being as fast as you were here again tonight. Next week, we head to New Hampshire. That's going to be a fun race, a very unique racetrack. Do you think we might see the three-peat from you next week in New Hampshire?
I'm not saying anything. New Hampshire is definitely a curveball. I haven't done any laps, obviously. It's a new build. Nothing should be changing with these cars, but it's iRacing. They might sneak something in with the tire that we don't know, even though all they said was say that they're updating setups. Who knows? But it'll be interesting. New Hampshire's not one of my very good strong suits, but we'll see. I'm not saying anything. I'm just happy that I put hashtag Dan the Happy Crab. That's on the front of the doors in Victory Lane because he's got the pearly whites. He's happy to be on the car. It's happy to be in Victory Lane, and we'll go on to next week and not think about the three-peat. A three-peat would be cool, but I'm here to have fun. And if I get my pants pulled down, finishing third, fourth, fifth, then so be it.
That's a great mindset to have. Gonna give you the floor to give any shout outs you would like to here tonight. Before we let you go, continue celebrating your 4th win of the season.
Yeah, I gotta give a shout out to Reckless Society with Haley and Chase Cabry, all of them involved with that. This was the scheme that ran in another Monday Night League. Probably one of my best cars, well, at least top 5 of my whole career as a graphic designer. It's based off the shirt. It got a lot of good attention to it. Everybody loved the car. Had to spice it up a little bit, move the palm trees around, put hashtag Dan the Happy Crab on there because got to put a happy crab on there. But then all my sponsors, Anderson Surfboards, Aquatech Glassing, Langford Farm Spirited by Brad, Valvoline, Jake Swanson Shock Technology, Simpson Race Products, yada blah 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 blah.
Definitely a great looking car. We both said it here during this broadcast. Love to see it a lot here tonight up at the front. Again, congratulations on another win, JD, and we're looking forward to seeing what you can do next week in New Hampshire.
Hopefully I'm back here. Hopefully the fans are turned off and the sun's really like glaring down at the racetrack so it's hot and slick and we can slide around a little bit and have some fun.
Well, we'll talk to Mother Nature, also known as Garrett Gleason, about that before we get to next week. Again,
I'm a mother something. I don't know about Mother Nature though, Mitchell.
That was JD Laird, tonight's race winner. Don't get too down on yourself, Garrett. Tonight, maybe the drivers didn't like it, but sometimes the best races come from difficult racetracks to drive, and I think that's what we saw tonight. Maybe a little bit difficult to drive, but that's just another way to put this race in the driver's hands, and they certainly put on a show for us here tonight.
Yeah, they did a tremendous job, whether or not they liked what we gave them or not. I for some reason, I thought I was making it, the sun was going to be out a little bit. I thought it was going to be hot. I was trying to put a little bit of a wind there. You know what? Back to random weather next week, Mitchell. I'll take the blame. I'll own this, and I appreciate everybody doing a great job out there with what they had. I wish they could have had a little more as far as passability and stuff goes. And we'll get there. That's why I like the feedback. I like being told, hey, Garrett, you missed the boat on this one. Let's try it a little different next time. That's what we're here to do. But every race so far this season, Mitchell, has been a fantastic race. It's a good product. And like these guys have said, you're looking for some place to race, come race here at TNR.
Yeah, TNR all season long, and for the last couple seasons too, you guys put on fantastic races. Every single race this season has been a good one. We will take you through tonight's finishing order here from the C2 Graphics 150 at Homestead Miami Speedway. JD Laird picks up win number 4 of the season over Jason Gracias in second, to Johnny Eckert rounding out the podium in third. DJ Weeks finished in the 4th position. Mike Floppy Tellier in 5th. Robert Kenny finished in the 6th position. Jake Bustos in 7th. Philip Scott brought it home in 8th. Steven Doziak Jr. in 9th place. And Jamar Dumas rounds out your top 10. Bill Edwards finishes in 11th. James Lorello finishes in 12th. Couldn't really recover from that little first lap incident he had in the 12th position. Vincent Valvano had a great run, great car tonight, ends up in 13th place. Joey Chapman in 14th, Jason Schue in 15th, Bob Giaquinto in the Tabletop Trio machine. Again, big thank you to Tabletop Trio for sponsoring the Lucky Dog Award. We once again could not give away tonight because this race ran green flag. So big thank you to Tabletop Trios. Wednesday on Twitch, I believe at 8 p.m. Eastern, if I'm not mistaken. I've watched a couple times, but that doesn't mean I know when it is, I guess. First car, 1 lap down. Robert Tripp in 17th. Tristan Thuggy Maher got a lap back, 1 lap down, but not the run Tristan wanted. Well, and then Johnny Williams in the 19th position, 4 laps down. A good solid run for Johnny tonight. Stephen Morgan, first start 4 laps down. Maybe not how he wanted it to go, but still nothing to shake off. Finishing the race, that's pretty good. Also, Paul Bilson finished 46 laps down. Appears to be the only DNF tonight. I don't know what happened to Bilson, but he finishes 46 laps down in 21st, rounding out the field. And Garrett, the thing I also love this season is we've seen big fields all season long, the same guys coming back, and we've got new guys who've joined us, and that's what we love from the broadcast side, and also you in the league administrator side. You love to see new faces joining us, but also the same guys coming out and racing every week.
Yeah, we'd like to develop a brotherhood here at TNR, and having the same guys show up every week and get used to racing each other just makes this league stronger, and that enables us to bring in these new drivers and take them under our wing and say, hey, this is a safe place to race. You can have fun here, and you can also learn here while this is going on. And this is all possible because of the great partners we have: Schue Lawn Service, Stay Tuned Sports, Cam Caldwell, C2 Graphics sponsoring tonight's race. I really appreciate that, Cam. I'm sorry you couldn't be here, but it was an honor to represent you tonight. Tabletop Trio, Bob Giaquinto and the boys, always a loyal supporter, and everything he does for the league as well. And here on the World Racing Network, Mitchell, you give us your time every Monday and do a tremendous job, and that's what we're doing, Mitchell. We're putting a good product out there on the track and off the track, and we have a lot of good ambassadors, people spreading the word, and I could not be more grateful. So thank you for allowing me to say that, and I appreciate everyone. We'll see you next week.
I can't wrap it up much better than that, Garrett. Again, thank you to C2 Graphics sponsoring the C2 Graphics 150 and everyone who helps make the TNR Grand National Series presented by Schue Lawn Service possible. For myself, Garrett Gleason, all of us at the World Racing Network, I'm Mitchell Adams. Want to thank you all for tuning in tonight. Make sure to tune in same time, same place next Monday for New Hampshire. And until then, stay safe, have fun. We'll see you next week.